So I saw the Fast 10 movie where this could be the final chapters of the Fast and the Furious franchise. So we knew how Vin Diesel and the others have returned, where Don Toretto faced off against a villain that they have never met before, which of course Dante, the son of the villain from Fast 5, who's played by Aquaman Jason Moreau. So here is the review of Fast 10, which is a really good movie. So the movie begins 10 years ago, back in 2011, the events of Fast 5. We see Herman Reyes, the evil drug lord, who actually look on a stack of money while talking to his son Dante, played by Aquaman Jason Momoa, who actually talk about the empire that he built while knowing of how it will be destroyed by Dominic Toretto, which knowing of how he'll go after him, knowing how he will assure that he will protect the family business. However, we see Dom and Brian, who actually had the footage played and showed the late Paul Walker, by which they actually stole the vault containing his money, so they pursued chase. But we knew how the final battle showed Dante enter the vehicle and getting ready to pursue chase. But he was actually thrown off the bridge and fallen off the river, knowing that his father was killed and so was he. But he came back to life, swear revenge on Dom. But we see back in the present on Los Angeles, we see how he raising his son Brian with his wife Letty, played by Michelle Rodriguez, who recently was on Dungeons and Dragons Honor Amongst Thieves, who actually taught him driving lessons, in which he's actually starting to get good at his young age, by which we knew that he could be just like his father, which we see how Dom is joined by Roman Pierce, played by Tyrese Gibson, Taz, played by rapper Ludacris, Ramsey, who's actually played by uh, Natalie Emil, and Han, who's played by Song Kang, and Dom's grandmother, Abuelita Toretto, which we actually see them joined by Mira, which of course for a reunion, knowing of how great the family is. So now they're actually talking about going to a new mission, which of course Roman decided to be leader, by which we knew how he looked at the pictures of Dom and Brian again, which is actually the tribute to the late Paul Walker, in which, of course, the photo of his father, by which we knew how Letty and Dom actually knew how her son means a lot to them. However, late at night, we see the cyber terrorist Cypher actually appear at his house, who's actually bleeding to death, which we knew something has happened, in which she's actually played by Charlize Theron, third one, in which she had told them that Dante have actually entered their lair, knowing that he knew where she is, by which he killed one of them, which point their guns at him. But he gave him a choice: either join him or actually watch his family being killed, which he has kidnapped them and show video of them, in which they had no choice but to join him. And they actually point their guns at Cypher. But she actually has a remote to actually control the guns, just like in Hobbs and Shaw. So now we see how Dom hear her out and Letty point a gun with a silencer onto her. Knowing how Little Nobody, played by Scott Eastwood, the son of Clint Eastwood, actually informs them that she's actually taken to a facility where she'll be safe. But knowing of how she was taken into custody, they knew about how the mission on Rome. But he actually revealed not only that Cyber is telling the truth, but he also tells them that they didn't have a mission in Rome, knowing that it's a setup. So they thought they actually found a computer chip, but realizing of how they are headed towards Rome to find the team, they actually was too late, as they realized that the truck carrying the chip is actually controlled by Dante, who uses a remote control to control the truck and have a bomb that actually gonna explode. Knowing of how everything is going to be destroyed, knowing of how they're going to stop them. But we see how they catch up with the truck as they actually stop it. But the bomb have actually rolled out of the way, out of the truck. But we see how Miss Little Nobody is actually trying to stop it, but he was almost killed, so he actually vanished. Knowing of how Dom is actually chasing the bomb, we see Letty chasing Dante, in which the bomb is actually headed towards the Vatican, which of course could be trouble. So Dom has pushed it into the river to stop the explosion. But upon the explosion, the part of the city was destroyed. Knowing of how Dom and his team will be blamed for the destruction and becoming criminals to the world. But Letty has been arrested and the team has actually escaped. Knowing of how the agency, which actually run by Mr. Nobody, has a new leader, which his name is Ames, who actually played by Alan Richson, which of course he's actually kind of like the muscle, thinking that Dom is responsible for the attacks. So now we see how the group actually vote on capturing Dom and killing him. But we see Tess, who is known as the daughter of Mr. Nobody, who actually played by Brie Larson, Captain Marvel herself, as she knew how they are going to figure out what they have to do. So she decided to take matters in their own hands. So we see at Los Angeles, Mia had taken care of Brian, but we knew how the strike team is trying to capture them. But knowing of how Brian is actually feared, we knew that they're actually been rescued by Dom's brother Jacob, who's played by WWE superstar John Cena, who's actually Peacemaker in the Suicide Squad, and recently been cast as Rocksteady on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem, as he took care of the strike team, in which one of those fights actually has him do the attitude adjustment on him, but we knew how he taken care of Brian to protect him, where Mia is actually going to part ways. So now we see Tess using God's eye to track knowing of his innocence, as they talk about where the team is. So they actually knew how he is actually needing three things: his team, their innocence, and Letty, as he showed her the cross that he actually wore and take it to her. Knowing of the fact that the Black Site prison created by the agency is where Letty is held, where we knew Tess is actually told her that Dom has sent her the cross. But knowing of how she is trying to escape, she was stabbed and was taken to get her injuries treated. Meanwhile, we seen Roman's team made to escape and headed towards London. But knowing of how Roman actually thought it was a good idea to hide in a container with cologne, which to Roman's idea, it was actually insane. However, we see how Dom headed over to Rio de Janeiro, where he confronted Dante to a race. Elsewhere, he met up with two other street racers, Diego, who's a friend of Don's, and Isabel Neves, who's the sister of Elaine and Dom's former girlfriend and Brian's mother, who, knowing of how Dom is still holding a grudge, but Dante, who actually dressed up in new attire because he's kind of, a lunatic, but we see how he challenging him to a race. So we knew how Dante have actually told him that he placed bombs under the cars of the other racers. So he saved Isabel's life during the race, but Diego was killed, causing Dante to win the race, knowing of how we see how Isabella talk about her sister and saying of how she was killed and not her. But we knew how Dom is going to stop Dante, by which, of course, we knew how they are going to figure out how to stop him. But we knew how in London, Dom's team had their bank accounts drained by Dante, knowing of how they will be broke. Well, except for Roman, who actually has dollars saved in his clothes, in which he actually asked for a receipt for actually getting the stuff they need. So they're actually headed towards a computer shop, which the clerk, who actually played by Pete Davidson, who's the voice of Mirage in Transformers Rise of the Beast, who would actually play Bowie Ramsey's friend, in which during the exchange of the supplies, Roman and Tess decide to fight, knowing of how their argument started into a huge tussle, in which we see Bowie turn them into the authorities so they could get the reward. So they actually ran, and the fact that they had no other option and no choice, they decided to meet up with Decker Shaw, played by Jason Statham, and ask for his help, knowing of how they are actually decided to go to him because he is the villain, or should I actually go to say the anti-hero of the series. He saw Hobbs, knowing that he isn't dead, in which we knew how they fight the agency, knowing of how he learned that they're criminals, in which they knew they're going to help them after learning that his mother Queenie is a target to them, knowing of how Dante have called Dom about the thing that he actually learned, which Ames and his team have captured Dom and taken her into custody. Meanwhile, during the operation, we see Letty met up with Cypher, in which she hacked into the system and causing everyone to sleep, knowing of how they are actually going to escape, not before they actually fight, in which they actually get ready to battle it out, but during the ride, we see Dom actually putting on his seatbelt, knowing that they're actually going to be attacked, by which they are actually saw Dante's mercenaries as Ames believe him. So they actually battle in the same highway that Herman actually died in Fast Five. So we see how Tess arrive, as well as the fact that he has kidnapped Isabel. We see how he injured Tess and almost killed Isabel, knowing of how they have captured God's Eye, which he going to use to track them down. Meanwhile, we see how Jacob and Brian actually heads towards Portugal, where he come up with a new vehicle. And during one scene on the plane, we see Meryl Walker, the daughter of Paul Walker, have gotten a cameo where she is a flight attendant, where they're being chased by mercenaries, by which knowing of how they using a new plane to actually glide over to their hidden garage, in which Dave actually saw a car have rockets, realizing that they are actually getting ready to fight to escape. They're using the car to fight against them, by which we knew how they're actually excited to see how they're actually saw how awesome that card is, in which Dom is actually arrived just in time. But they're actually realizing how the engine was, the tank was actually jammed. So they actually knew how Dante managed to capture Brian, and in which Dom is in trouble where the cars getting ready to kill him. But Jacob sacrificed himself after realizing that he's been in the shadow too long because of the events of Fast 9. So he decided to save his brother for the first time and actually gave Dom the room to chase Dante and rescue his son, which the helicopters are actually captured him, but knowing of how he using the helicopters to actually destroy each other and getting ready to use it on the remaining cars and the car that Dante is at, and Brian escape, knowing of how they are united again. But we see the trucks controlled by Dante getting ready to smash into each other. But the plane with Dom's team arrive, only to be destroyed by Ames, who revealed to be working with Dante the entire time because we see in the scene from Fast 5 in which he meet up with him and saw that the vault is actually stolen, which almost kills them as it crashed into the land, knowing of how they made it off the bridge, in which they have actually knew that they've actually going to be killed with the bombs all over the bridge, where we see Letty and Cypher knew that they were in Antarctica, by which they escaped as they were rescued by Giselle, who was actually played by Gal Gadot, which they actually knew that she survived the plane crash as she get ready to help them. Meanwhile, we see at the mid-credit scene of a team saw the area where Dante gave a call to one of the members as he realized that he is the one killed Herman because Dom crashed into his car. And that same person was none other than Luke Hobbs, played by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, as he got the call, knowing that he will be the next target after Dom, as he's saying that he will be waiting for him after crushing the phone, in which the movie ends with the, which almost say, to be continued. So despite of what the critics are actually saying, I really love Fast 10, which we get to see the final row of the series that could actually end. Plus, the villain Dante, son of Herman Reyes, is menacing, but he's actually have a few screws less, screws, knowing of how he actually has his interest in Dom. Plus, we actually see the daughter of the late Paul Walker, Meryl, who actually got her cameo, in which Paul will be proud of his daughter, of getting the role. So we're going to see what's going to happen on the next movie, which is not only going to be a two-parter movie, but it could be a trilogy, which Vin Diesel has confirmed. So we could actually see a three-parter movie. So we're going to see what's going to happen on Fast 11. So anyway, like this video, subscribe for more, and comment what you think about the movie and the review. You guys can also follow me on Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, and my Facebook page and Twitch. Until then, this is Make Around here saying signing out. Laters and be safe.